Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 365.
Yeah.
Dancing a bit too hard there. I've got a headache.
Look like two Silurians dancing, wobbling their heads.
Welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. Thank you for coming back and listening to another episode. Or if this is your first one, if you're fresh to the show, then welcome aboard. It's good to have you here. Hope you're all keeping well and safe, and that you've managed to have a cracking week, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. That was a good one. 365 is here, dude. Not much news to go through.
It's nothing.
Dear Who fan, dear listener. But we have, there's been a couple of, I don't know whether we should talk about it or not. There's been some stuff Adam filled me in this morning that's been going on the old Twitter and stuff. Don't know whether to go through that or not. But if not, we're going to smash straight into our review of, let's do the full title, Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Yeah, big old whopping 7-parter.
A 7-parter, eh? Yep, that's definitely, it's one of those, when we decided on this one, in my head, I already knew it was going to be a blanket on the sofa with lots of supplies. So a couple of drinks, a cup of tea, some snacks, get comfy, because you won't be moving your ass off the sofa for a little while. So that's all good. Before we crack on with all of that stuff, remember to follow or subscribe in your preferred podcast app of choice. You can find us on all those things. Just head over to bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk/listen, or just do a search for the Big Blue Box in any of those things. You'll find us on there. We'd love to have you as a follower, so you don't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. And you can also listen for free on our website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Also, we're on the socials, links on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and follow us on there. And we have a very cool free Discord server as well. You can find a link to that on the website. We have loads of very, very cool Who fans in our Discord community. None of the toxic rubbish that you see that, you know, explodes on the socials and stuff. All of our Discord family are very, very cool, very just down to earth, chilled, but very cool Who fans. So hop in there and have some good convo. They chat everything in there. I don't have the time to sit in there all day, obviously, but when I do go in there, there's always loads of chat about merchandise, new Doctor Who that's on, Big Finish, events, the whole thing. So to come and jump in and do that. Also, don't forget to remember to check out my co-host's channel. He's got probably one of the biggest YouTube channels in the UK.
I wish.
It's called The Geek's Handbag.
Oh, cheers. I wish it was the biggest. I could live off it. I could never have to work again. Actually, I've spent the last 2 weeks filming a new video. And it's still not finished. And I'm thinking, like, this will probably only get a few hundred views if I'm lucky. Why am I putting myself through this? So it should be out, actually. If I manage to get myself in gear, it should be out the day this podcast comes out. So please go and watch my new video. It's a review of the Doctor Who vinyl, Celestial Toymaker, and also there's a Blake 7 vinyl. I've done the two together, and it's probably one of those reviews thing. Oh, that sounds a bit dull. Honestly, I'm really pleased with the video. I've spent so long on it, and the vinyls are gorgeous. So go and have a look at that and all my other videos. There's loads on there. I've been a YouTuber for years.
Years. Yeah. Adam's on the socials too, by the way, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So as long as you're nice and not a dick, then go and follow him and chat Doctor Who and all other things, which are sci-fi and entertainment and all that stuff. So go and do that. Doctor Who magazine just landed, dude. Tell me about it. Apparently it's a really good one.
It is a good one, yes. I mean, it's got a cracking cover on it. It's got the new logo on it. It's got the new diamond logo on it. I
love that. Do you know what? A very quick shout out as well to the dudes over at Radio Free Skaro, which is, I think that must be the longest running Doctor Who podcast, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I think it is. Anyway, their new show logo uses that. Yeah. It looks very, very cool. So we see what you did there, and we like it. We like it.
It looks good. I love the diamond logo. I think it's iconic. Great picture of David on the front of the mag as well. Really nice artwork, and it's a great issue actually. I mean, Doctor Who magazine. I'm a subscriber. I've been for like forever, like since I was a kid. It's kind of tradition with me. I'll be honest, it has been flagging a little bit over the last couple of years. I think even the sort of the people who put it together have said they've struggled in terms of getting any sort of pictures from the BBC or stuff they can use for the sort of Jodie Chibnall era. Magazine sales have dropped, so they couldn't afford the comic strip over the last sort of few months. They said, sorry, we can't pay artists when we don't have the budget or haven't got the sales to justify it. And the comic strip, although it sounds like a small thing, that's been part of Doctor Who for magazine for like forever. It's kind of real sort of tradition with the magazine. So that was a shame. Anyway, they have bounced back with a cracker this month, and I urge everyone to pick it up. So not only is the comic strip back, which is great to see, and it's the first one with, wow, he's officially the 14th Doctor, isn't he, David Tennant? Russell's confirmed he's the 14th. Bizarrely, the comic strip picks up straight after the regeneration, which you might think, okay, fair enough, but that makes me think: is this quite an important comic strip? Is this something we're not going to see on screen? Is this like, canon media that is in the comic rather than on TV? Because it picks up straight from the regeneration, and he goes in the TARDIS, and I won't say any more, but goes on an adventure. So I'm thinking, be interested. I feel like when Doctor Who comes back with its first special with David, it's going to be like a real clean start. It's just going to bang straight into the episode. I don't think we're going to be back on that cliff top. So if you want to know what happens after the cliff top, it looks like you're going to have to get Doctor Who magazine. But there's loads of other good stuff in it this month. There's like behind the scenes pictures of David doing the regeneration with not with Jodie. She was they filmed her a bit months before, but she's in there, and lots of behind the scenes stuff. Just loads, mate. It's a real jam packed issue. Russell's in there talking about how he decided to go and approach the BBC, how he wanted to come back apparently. So he said he approached the BBC and said, look, I've during lockdown been chatting to David and Catherine, and we've been having a laugh, and we've been discussing ideas, and just think it would be crazy if we come back and did this. And the BBC probably snatched his hand off, I would imagine. So thought, what? RTD, David Tennant and Catherine Tate? They're not going to shut the door on them, are they? It's like, they're just not. Can you imagine? Who else did they have on the table? Like, they're not going to do that. So they're back, and so he talks all about that and why he's back. And there a lot of stuff kicked off on Twitter because he talks about why David regenerated into his new outfit rather than being in Jodie's outfit. A lot of people upset about that. So he talks about that, and the thing is, just to say, I mean, a lot of people are sort of saying even when it aired that was a strange decision, but it has happened before. I mean, Hartnell into Troughton, the clothes regenerated with him. It's not a new thing. River Song, when she regenerated from, was it Mel's? What was the character called?
Was it Mel's? I think
that she regenerated to River. Her costume, it's not a new thing. The Doctor's shoes in Legopolis shrank and changed into sort of brown clogs between the 4th and 5th Doctor, although I think that was more of a continuity error, so not a new thing. But anyway, yes, there's a lot of drama around that. It's just a great issue, mate, and it's really the only thing I've done, because having this great big 7-parter to watch, like you, I've snuggled down with a blanket because it's getting cold and we can't afford the heating on over here in the UK. True story. So I was the same as you. I was like wrapped up in a blanket and two or three different tops, watching this all through the week. So I haven't really had a chance for much else, to be fair.
I read you. Do you know what, dude? That was the one of the blessings of the modern digital viewing age. Is that I didn't have to get my ass off the sofa to go and put, to go and do that stuff with the DVD player or the Blu-ray player. I just had BritBox fired up, the episode finished, and then the credits roll, and then the next one just says playing in 7 seconds, whatever counts down, and it just goes straight in. It's lovely. It is lovely.
Like, skip intros? Certainly not on a Pertwee episode there.
Yeah, skip all of them and then play it at double speed to get through it nice and quick. Job's a good one.
Yeah.
Controversial. But guys, don't be a dick on Twitter. Come on, we're better than this. We are, as a fandom and as a community, Doctor Who fans, we have to be better than this, right? Let's not let's not be like Star Wars fans. Let's not be like, well, over the last year, let's not be like Lord of the Rings fans. Let's not do that. There's no need to do that.
Twitter's a cesspit, mate, and I think it seems to be going out the window anyway now that a lot of people are leaving. Now that Musk, is that his name, Musk?
Elon, yep.
Elon,
yep.
Now he's taken over. A lot of people are jumping off it. So I only ever post pictures of my merch on it anyway. So I don't really get involved in the spats, or the fighting.
Well, it's a thing now, isn't it? It seems to be. Yeah, let's not get into it too deep, but it seems to be a thing. Like, if you've got an opinion on something, then it seems the way to do it these days is not to respectfully and to, open up conversation to talk about why your opinion is different to somebody else's. It seems to be the thing that you insult them first, and then you tell them how their opinion is wrong, and then you tell them your opinion, and then you back that up with another insult. That seems to be the path of the course these days. So let's not do that, peeps. Come on. If you don't like something that Russell T Davies has said on Twitter or Instagram, then you don't like it. That's fine. That's absolutely cool that you don't like that. But you don't have to call him every name under the sun and tell him that the work that you absolutely cherished and loved for many years on Doctor Who is now worthless, and he's a beep and a beep and a beep and all the rest of it. Come on, people. Come on. Let's not do that. So anyway, I didn't see any of this anyway, dude, on the tweets or anything, but you filled me in. So if there's any of our listeners that are on the socials and stuff, and I know most of you are, especially around the Big Blue Box Twitter following, everyone that we speak to on Twitter normally, and as I mentioned in our Discord, we have lovely Who fans and stuff like that. So we're very fortunate because we know of a few content creators, dude, that really get it hard. Really get it hard. So and you know that we don't put up with that anyway. If we ever have any of that, there's only been a few occasions where we've had people kick off for whatever reason on our Twitter and so on. We do not put up with that at any point. So let's all be. Yeah, it sounds very Miss United States, but let's all be nice to each other. Let's all be. It
good. Would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice if we could be nice.
It would be, yes. So that's our. We need a little jingle for this, don't we? That's our good Doctor Who message of the day or the week. Yeah. Anyways, I've done nothing Doctor Who other than start off a new rewatch, dude. I'm going to watch the whole thing in the run up to next year's kickoff.
The whole thing?
Yes, I'm 2 episodes in already. So I did An Unearthly Child and The Daleks. So I'm 2 stories in.
No way.
Yeah. I'm going to watch every freaking episode of Doctor Who up until the new stuff starts next year. So I've got a bit of time, which is good, but I do need to get my foot down.
Have you watched the pilot? Like the original?
No.
Untransmit? No. Honestly, go back. I actually prefer the pilot.
Yes,
it's where the TARDIS doors get stuck and keep banging when they're trying. They carry on. They just carry on. Don't worry about the doors banging in the back of the scene. We'll sort it out. Just carry on saying your lines. I love the pilot, mate. It's I think I slightly prefer it actually because Hartnell's a lot more wild in the pilot. They sort of he's quite wild in the transmitted version, but in the pilot they sort of tried. They softened him down a little bit in the one that was transmitted. He's a little bit more erratic in the pilot version. And the TARDIS looks clean. It always amazes me. The first shot of the TARDIS prop looks so brand new and clean. And then you see it in the version that was transmitted where they reshot it. And it's as if like they've dug it out the bin, isn't it? It's absolutely filth. I love the pilot, mate. I know you probably if you're watching them all, you probably won't have time. And I know you've seen it before anyway, but I love the pilot.
It is a cool take on the version that you think is the original one.
Yeah. I was going to say, just to clarify, I'm not talking about the Stephen Moffat
no.
episode, the pilot. It always annoyed me that he called it the pilot because I'm like, no, we've already got a pilot, Stephen. Call it something else. Yeah, I'm talking about the original Unearthly Child episode that was shot, and then they went back and reshot the whole episode. Really unusual, actually, when you think about that. But I love the fact that it's amazingly still in the BBC archive, and that it's on. You can actually watch it on the DVD, and you can watch alternative takes as well. And also, Barbara, when she first goes into the TARDIS, is so much better in the pilot because she actually goes through the doors into the TARDIS instead of that juddery cut that's in the transmitter. There's a lot of good stuff in the pilot version.
All right, Jesus.
Yeah,
Have you watched
I
it
just
recently?
forgotten how much I loved it. I might have to go and watch it myself.
Here we go. This is what generally happens, Who fans. Especially when Adam and I meet up. I'm like, I watched this episode the other day. He's like, no, you didn't. You needed to have watched this one and watched it properly and do all this stuff. I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, I've already ruined your watch along. Sorry. And don't forget to watch Paradise Towers with the alternative music.
Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll message you in the morning and say, I'm planning on watching these episodes. Firstly, is that all right with you? And secondly, should I be watching a certain cut?
Yeah, the Anthony Colburn cut or something, you know. Yeah.
Good times. Anyway, so I'm going to be rewatching all of Doctor Who as we go through, because it's a great, we do complain sometimes that there's massive gaps between new series. And I know it's kind of different now because we have a whole new changeover of showrunner and production company, everything like that, as you would expect. But we do seem to have massive, massive gaps between certain series these days, these years. So although it sucks that we're not going to get any new Doctor Who until probably quite late into next year, that does give a nice chunky window to watch all of Who. So yeah, it'd be good.
It's a good time to do it.
Yeah. Rightio then. Enough waffle. It's review time, dude. What we got?
Ooh, the wobbly head. So this week, bit of pertwee action with the story Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Miss Shaw and the Doctor will report themselves forthwith to Wendy Moore.
We are on the verge of discovering a way to provide cheap, safe atomic energy.
What is going wrong?
Someone has been carrying out a planned, deliberate program of sabotage. On the inside.
It's like a reptile, but it walked upright.
There are two kinds of creature down in that cave. The large and ferocious one, the smaller, much more intelligent kind that controls the first.
The species is dangerous and hostile. We should kill them all.
Unless you Silurians tell us what you want, the humans will destroy you.
We ruled this world millions of years ago.
I want there to be peace between you and the humans. This is their planet now.
Soon we shall revive our civilization and reclaim the Earth for ourselves.
Ooh, those angry Silurians.
Good trailer, that one. So, Doctor Who and the Silurians. I love that that's the full title.
Yeah.
We should have everything have Doctor Who and the something.
Yeah.
It harks back to like it when they have Doctor Who and the in the title of anything. It really just gives that lovely warm feeling of like a good old worn Target book.
I was just thinking that, funny enough.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Target books and the...
Yeah. Anyway, Doctor Who and the Silurians was first released back on the 31st of January 1970. And then the 7th part, the last bit, went out on the 14th of March 1972. Then we have it written by Malcolm Hulke. It was overseen by Terence Dix and directed by Timothy Combe. And it stars the third Doctor, John Pertwee, as you all know, in his second story as the Doctor, with Liz Shaw, played by Caroline John, and a pretty substantial supporting cast in this one. Loads of names. Of course, Nick Courtney as the Brigadier, and then a bunch of other people that we'll get onto forthwith. So, we'll just say the Silurians from here on in. So, dude, the Silurians, what are your initial thoughts on this big old 7-parter then?
I love this one, mate. I think this is the epitome of a classic. I really think it's a classic story. And even being 7 episodes, I think it manages to hold its own. No doubt it would benefit from being trimmed up to a 6-parter. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot going on, and there's some really good dialogue. I think that's what helps to sort of get through the 7 parts. You know, there's enough going on, I think. But if it had been trimmed a little and taken back to 6, I think it would have really benefited. But it's still, for me, works fine as a 7-parter. I really enjoy it. And I watched it like 2, and 3. So maybe if I watched it all in one go, it'd be a bit hard going, but it wasn't designed to be watched like that. So Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good story. I think the design of the Silurians is classic. I really love the design of them. I think it's bizarre, the head wobble thing, but I love it. And I think most of all, the cast are taking the story very seriously. I think the cast really make this story work. So overall, yeah, it's a good one. And I haven't watched it for quite a while, so I was thinking, oh, is this going to be a bit hard going? Because I know that it's one that I like, but I couldn't remember if it dragged a lot in places. And I found it quite a nice watch. I didn't find myself getting bored at all. Actually, in over the entire 7 episodes, there were perhaps the odd moment where I thought, this could have been cut, or this. I think it's episode 6 actually. There's a bit where the play's going around and the scenes do feel a little bit drawn out. I think that was the only time when I actually felt like, yeah, you can see this is being dragged out a little bit. But for the most part, mate, I thought it was a great story. And I thought the cast were great. And especially Pertwee, I thought he was absolutely fantastic in this story. So, yeah, I think it's a really good one. And I think a lot of people will be put off because it's a 7-parter. And I would say, if you like Classic Who, this is a great story. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I do think this is a very cool classic story. Really like this one. I was a bit bored, though. I will be honest, dude.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was a bit bored. I think as a 7-parter, I think this could have really nicely been a 4-parter, And
it would have been a cracking 4-parter.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people would say, well, actually, maybe just 1 episode short would have been better than a 6-parter. But I think even that is a stretch for me. Purely because, and this is nothing new to Classic Who with anything that's longer than a few parts. We do have a bit of padding because some of the middle episodes, there's only really one event that you're focused on in those middle episodes. The rest of it is just an extension of the stuff that you've already seen in the previous episode. What I mean by that is, as an example, the episode when the Doctor goes down into the caves. That's like the event for that episode. I think that's episode 3, episode 3.
Yeah.
That's the event for that episode. All the stuff that happens around that, it's just all the stuff we've already seen. So it's the moody scientist that's like, I'm unhappy with you, Brigadier, and your performance and what unit is up to. And the Brig's like, all right, cool. Glad you feel that way. See you later. And then that same scene happens in the next episode, and then the next one, and then the next one. So you kind of... For me, it was like there was like one cool thing that happened in each of the middle episodes. Don't get me wrong, episode 6 and 7, especially episode 7, was very, very good. Very cool. And the stuff that happens in the middle was just recycling some of the conversations and some of the bits that are happening. So the bits that I thought were standout, which were very cool. Bearing in mind, this is Pertwee's 2nd story, right? Was this filmed as in chronologically his 2nd?
I don't know, actually, to be honest
I can't
with you.
remember. I did research a little bit last week, but so bearing in mind this is Pertwee's 2nd story as the Doctor, and he's pretty cool. He's pretty sweet already as the Doctor. He's got that really nice kind of confidence about him that he doesn't put up with any nonsense from the Brigadier already, and he doesn't put up with anybody giving him orders or telling him what. So he's got that really classic James Bondy kind of confidence about him, which is great. And so I really like Pertwee as the Doctor in this one. We'll get into that in more detail in a second. But the virus plague stuff I thought was really cool, how they did that.
Yeah.
So the guy, was it Masters, who's the dude that's there to inspect everything. And Jeffrey Palmer, his character.
Yes.
So he's there to inspect everything, and he knows that, stuff's going down. It's not right, and he recommends they close it all down. But unbeknownst to him, the guy that's come back up from the caves has been infected by the Silurians, and he's passed that virus. And as we knew he would do, unit are not going to catch him in time, so he's walking through a busy London train station, and then he's bumping into everybody. So this thing's spreading. I thought that was very, very cool, because to me that was an extra bit that raised the stakes a little bit. It wasn't just a case of you have a monster or an alien saying, I want to destroy the human race or the planet, and on the other hand you've got the Doctor saying, no, I'm not going to let you do that, and inevitably the Doctor stops them and saves the day. There was like an added element to it. It was like, yes, there is this situation to deal with the Silurians, and the Doctor's trying to be very tactful and political about it. He doesn't want them to be destroyed. But then you've got this virus and stuff. And then the other bit that was cool was it really felt like the Doctor was in control for most of it, bar a couple of bits where he's trying to work out a cure for the disease. You know, he's in the lab and he's testing the bloods and he's doing all that stuff. He's getting a bit frustrated. And then the other bit, obviously, is when he's been locked up down in the cave by the Silurians. You know, it felt like he was a little bit sort of up against it then. But for the most part, like I said, his kind of confidence about things and the way he did things. So overall, very good story, very cool. Love John Pertwee, but a bit paddy and a little bit boring. It's weird to say because I'm not sitting there thinking, oh God, I wish I wasn't watching this. It was more just of a, okay, we've seen this bit before. Like, I just want to get through this bit and then we can get on to, a better scene. But yeah, overall, not too bad, dude.
I do, yeah. I totally get that, actually. Now you mentioned it about there's definitely bits where they're going through the same things. I think towards the sort of latter part of the story, there's a bit of time when they're sat around the tables, and so I get that totally. I think, yeah, I mean, it's just so long since I watched it. I think I was just quite enjoying it. But I think if I was to sort of, I think I have to be in the mood for it, I suppose. I mean, there are a lot of Pertwee stories that are real. They're either 6 or 7 parts, and I find them very hard going. After about the first 2 or 3 episodes, I'm like, oh dear. I can never remember the name of the story. There's one that I find it so hard to get through. Is it Colony in Space? Or I'm not sure. There's one, and I always get it mixed up with another Pertwee story. So that I really find hard work. Like you said, I find myself sat there thinking, I am not really enjoying this. Like it's okay, but I'm really bored now and I need the story to move on. I didn't feel that at all during this, so I agree. There are definitely bits that it could have so benefited from being like a 4 or 6 parter. Absolutely. But I didn't find myself getting frustrated or sort of tedious with the story, even though it did sort of repeat itself a bit. But I do know what you mean. I think 7 parts is quite a big space to fill. So, there's definitely going to be a bit of repetition there. But I think I just found the performances so engaging, mate. I thought the cast just seemed really into it for the most part. I mean, Peter Miles, always gives a very erratic performance. He's always got quite a strong performance, I think. He's got a certain screen presence. And the bit where he got the plague and he was going mad at the end, I bet you were cracking up.
I was cracking up, dude.
I knew you would be. Because he really, when he jumps up on the table, he's really going for it, isn't he? So, yeah, I just thought the whole cast were really into it. And Pertwee, particularly, like you said, it's his first season. Second story, is it? Did you say?
Second, yeah. It's after Spearhead, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I always think this is towards the end, but no, second story. I don't know when it was filmed, but I love Pertwee. I love Pertwee in general. I know we normally talk about the Doctor towards the end, but I just want to say this while I remember, because whenever I watch a Pertwee episode, I remind myself how great he is. And what I mean by that is, when you're down the pub and you're talking about your favourite Doctors, who's your favourite Doctor then? Who's in your top 5? And put the Doctors in order of best to worst. I have to be honest, Pertwee is never up there in my list. When I'm sort of saying, oh yeah, my favourite is, or so-and-so is great. And yet every time I watch him, I absolutely love him as the Doctor. And I just think he gives such a great performance. He does feel quite alien as well. He feels disconnected from the rest of them. I think Pertwee's really got, that thing of, I am not human. Like when he says it in this story, he's like, they're not my race. I'm not, they're a different race to me. I really feel like he means it. Like he does feel alien to me. But yeah, I get this every time I watch a Pertwee, mate. I think if you were to say who's your favourite Doctor or who's in your top 3, I never mention Pertwee. No, probably not top 5, and yet every time I watch him, he's so good that he really should be up there in my top 5 list. I think he's brilliant, but he's got a bit more of an edge to him, I feel, in his first series. Do you feel this? Like whenever I watch anything from his first series, he's a bit more not Bond-like, but what did you say earlier? he seems a bit more in control and a bit more, not shouty, but he's very direct. There's a real confidence to his performance, which he does have all the way through his era. But there's something about him in the first season that I don't know. There's a slight stronger edge to him, whereas he softens a little. I think when we get to Katie, he sort of turns a bit more into this sort of charming type Doctor figure, doesn't he? Whereas in this, he's still got that charm, but he's very much a little bit more alien and very direct. And the way he speaks to Liz Shaw, he's quite forthright, I think. Is this season 8? Would it be? Season 7, isn't it? Of course, yeah, season 7. Yeah, it's more forthright, I feel, in this first season. I really like that. I noticed it in this story, and I remember in Inferno just how strong he is. He's like a real force to be reckoned with, which obviously we still get, but there's a softer side to his Doctor that comes out as his seasons go on. So I really like Pertwee in season 7.
Yeah, no, I do, dude. I think he's you're absolutely right. He's got a bit of an edge to him. He's got a little bit of you just know that he's not going to put up with any rubbish from anybody. Yeah, and he's going to stick to that. But he's also have these little moments of just kindness about him. Which is really nice, and a bit of sort of playfulness about him. At the very end, where Bessie's broken down and he puts that fluid in there. Liz is like rolling her eyes, like, "Shall I just go back and get some help?" He's like, "No." And then he's got his watch out, and he's kind of mentally tracking the fluid as it runs through the engine and out the exhaust, and he's got this cheeky little smile, like, "There we go." So he has those little moments where there's like a playfulness to him and a bit of a. But in the later stuff, yeah, you're right. When we get to when John, that chemistry between him and Katie Manning is clearly the side of him that's a bit softer and a little bit more. You can tell that on screen as well. I think that's why he comes across as a little bit more softer with Katie and a little bit, But in this series, especially, he's got that right. I'm here to fix the situation. And if you don't like it, then, so he almost clashes with the Brigadier in that respect, where the Brigadier has to go up against that as well. He has people that, in this story especially, that are coming at him like, "I'm not happy with Unit being here, and I'm going to file a complaint, and this is rubbish, and you shouldn't be doing this," and all the rest of it. And he's like, just not putting up with it. And it's great. And the Doctor's like that. Pertwee's Doctor is like that very much so in these early ones. So I know exactly what you mean. And I think the reason why Pertwee probably played it like that is because Troughton's Doctor, in contrast, was a lot more playful and a lot more. We all know what Troughton's Doctor was like. So probably he thought, well, I'm not going to go in and be bumbly and because he very easily could have done that. If anyone's watched old Wurzel Gummidge, classic Gummidge, or any of that stuff, Pertwee has the ability to play,
it's a good point.
A bit of a plonker, and he can be playful and childlike, and he can do all that stuff. Yeah. But I think he made a very conscious, this is with me with my Mystic Meg crystal ball, obviously, but I get the feeling that his conversations that he would have had with the BBC and the producers of Doctor Who was very much like, we've already had a playful, clowny Doctor. Now we need somebody that's very different to that. So I think he plays his version of the Doctor very, very stern at times and quite cutting, but it's exactly, we know why that is. The only thing I can't get past, and every time I see a scene with this, I just fall about laughing, and I know he's trying to be serious, but when he does his... Like, there's a bit when he's in the cell and the Silurians getting a little bit wound up with him because he just wants him to be quiet, and he keeps, banging on. So he turns like his third eye, ray on him. That's the whole head wobble thing. And Pertwee's face, he always does this face where his eyes go really wide and he goes boss-eyed. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. I'm thinking the Spearhead when he's got the thing wrapped around him in the tank and he's doing it,
So, I cannot get past that. And I know he's not doing it for comedic effect. I know he's doing it for like, this is me, like in pain. I'm being zapped by, this whatever. But I just can't get past it, dude. So that's the only one little nugget of, I can see why you're playing the Doctor this way. But that face that you pull, I just can't get past it, mate. All I see is Wurzel Gummidge, mate. That's all I see.
It's a good point you make there. I never really thought of that before, about the comedic side of Pertwee. He could have so easily sort of played it like a more comedic style, couldn't he? But I think that's the thing. I think he's gone into Doctor Who and thought, he's looked at Troughton's performance, which is, at times like, sort of childish and charming. And he's decided somebody has decided that they're going to play it very differently, which is absolutely right. I think, you want to put your own stamp on it. And he was known, I think, pretty much for comedy, wasn't he, when he took this role? So he probably wanted to prove to people that he could actually act. I can play this straight. I can play this very serious. I'm not just a comedic actor. And that's a really good point. I've never thought about it like that. He probably could have played this, a bit more for laughs and a bit more sort of childlike like Troughton if he'd wanted to. But I'm so glad he didn't. And I think the thing is, when I say he's not in my top list, when somebody asks me, is I think my misconception of the Third Doctor is that he's sort of a bit of his time, a bit sort of pompous, a bit hello my dear and all this sort of thing, which there's definitely that side to him. But I also, when I watch his episodes, the things that I forget that I love about his Doctor is actually there is a real strong side to him. He very much is in control. I'm going to sort this out. And also, I love the tinkering side of the Third Doctor. He's always making things and, gadgets, and he's always experimenting and finding cures, and he's in laboratories. And, I love that. He's intelligent, basically. I love that side of the Third Doctor. And I think I sort of forget that a lot of the time, if you know what I mean. Like my perception of him is a slightly how can I put it, a bit like the old gentleman's club figure, you know what I mean?
I read you.
Like the way that they all talk, in this is the 70s, right? Or is it latter end of 69 70s? I don't know when they filmed it, but everyone talks very much like this, don't they? There's everybody, that was the BBC back then, and I think that's the thing I think of when I think of this era and Pertwee's Doctor. And I mean, there is a bit that typifies that when he first meets the Silurian, and he actually says, "Hello, are you a Silurian?" It's very sort of British of the time, 70s. The way his Doctor is. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that's the thing that I often think of when I think of his Doctor. And there's so much more to him than that. And I'm just reminded of it every time I watch an episode. I'm like, God, he's actually brilliant as the Doctor. He's a real force to be reckoned with, and he has got that compassionate side, like the bit where he's talking with the Silurian when he finds out that the Earth used to be their planet, and they just have this really cool discussion. The way Pertwee plays and acts that, it's a really beautiful scene. There's many layers to his Doctor that I think that I personally often overlook. And he's absolutely brilliant in this story, and he is a brilliant Doctor.
He is a great Doctor, and that's enlightening as well, because when you think about his back catalogue of stuff before Doctor Who, some of the films that he did, he was in a few Carry On films, which are just through and through comedies, like Carry On Screaming, Carry On Cowboy, and all that stuff. Like some of the other films that he did as well was Nearly a Nasty Accident, which is a good little comedy. I've Got a Horse, You Must Be Joking, all that stuff. And then some of the TV is like Toad Hall and Jack and Ori, Dave Nixon's Comedy Bandbox. All of these programs, he's very jokey and funny, and you can tell that his heart lies in laughter and the whole comedic side of things. So the fact that he used Doctor Who as an opportunity to be like, actually, I'm this kind of stern, confident sort of person that's not the jester of the cast, I think was a really good decision for him, because it must have been it was a bit like a Catherine Tate moment, I imagine. Again, I'm just plucking this thought process out of the air, but a lot of people were very hesitant about Catherine Tate because they thought she's a comedy actor and she's known for being funny, and so how is she going to bring some seriousness and some legitimacy to a companion that needs to be that isn't required to be funny all the time and stuff like that. But she absolutely nailed it. So this is the same, not the same, but it's a similar kind of thing, I suppose, where you probably had film and TV critics at the time being like, funny man John Pertwee is going to be the Doctor, and how's this going to go down? So
they probably expected a very different performance from him, wouldn't they? Actually, thinking about it at the time, they were probably expecting him to be comedic. I would think in terms of the media and even maybe the general public at the time. I doubt they're expecting him to be, the sort of action hero Doctor that he actually is. But yeah, definitely the right choice in my eyes. I think he plays it really well.
Indeedy. Yeah. So I think we can agree on that one, dude. He's very good in this. He's really good. And it's lovely to see the Doctor tinker. That was such a cool thing about his Doctor as well. Is that the kind of being the investigator as well, and the tinkerer and building and messing around with things. A really cool aspect of the Doctor, which I think they lost that a little bit in some of modern Who. They lost that sort of. I think they brought it back a little bit with Capaldi's Doctor, but we kind of lost the technical side of the Doctor's personality, and of course every incarnation of the Doctor has their own unique personality, but there is that sort of running thing throughout classic Who where he's very much tinkering with the TARDIS console and is covered in wires and and just making stuff and a bit of an engineer, and I love that about his Doctor as well. I love that the kind of theme that ran through his era was that because he's been grounded on Earth by the Time Lords, he's always got this in the background project that he doesn't really divulge to the brig. Sometimes he didn't even tell Liz or anyone, and he's just trying to get the TARDIS working in a way that he can get off of Earth and stuff like that. And that came through lots of I need this part, or I need this thing, or I'm going to make this thing. So I love that about his era as well, and his Doctor. And it happens in this episode where at the beginning she's Liz mentioned something and he gives it a bang and it starts, and it was Bessie, wasn't it? And Bessie, and later on when he's in the lab and he's testing all the different bloods and stuff, I love that aspect of his Doctor. You can tell that that was written well for him as well. Yeah.
It just why I love it is it just shows the intelligent side of the Doctor. Like you said, Troughton had that. He could often play the clown-like figure, but underneath you knew that he was actually very intelligent.
Like Matt Smith to a degree.
Yes, Matt Smith as well. And like you said, when Capaldi, they started to bring a little bit of that in, when he was at the chalkboard and he was doing all the equations, and I thought they're going back to that a little bit, and I really like the fact they're bringing that element of the Doctor back, the intelligent side. And I remember when Jodie made her Sonic out of steel and stuff in the first episode, I remember thinking at the time, I hope we're going back to the Doctor, a more intelligent Doctor that actually uses what she's got or they've got in front of them to actually make things and solve the problem. And sadly that never materialized with her Doctor, but I just love that side, and it's a shame that I think we've lost it. But I know, like you said, every Doctor has to be different, and they can't all do that, but it is the side of the Doctor I love, and it particularly works, I think, with Pertwee. The fact he's got the blooming TARDIS console in a shed in a lot of his stories. What's going on there? I remember being so confused by that when I sort of first started watching the Pertwee stories when they come out on VHS all those years ago. I was like, what? Why is the TARDIS in the shed? What's going on here? But yeah, it's a side of his Doctor I absolutely adore. It's
cool, isn't it? Yeah, very cool. So, love letters for Jon Pertwee put to one side. Let's talk about the Silurians themselves then, the quote-unquote baddies of the episode. And an interesting choice early on for Pertwee, in that Spearhead was very much like the great intelligence stuff and the Autons and all that. It was a very cool thing, but it wasn't very visual, as in because it was a load of mannequins for the most part in that and stuff like that. It wasn't a very classic Who expected person in a cheap, tacky suit. So when we finally get to Jon Pertwee's Doctor being able to interact with that, and the design for the Silurians is very expected of charming Who, classic Who, I think is the best way to put it, because as usual, you can tell that, the budget's not very big, so they made do with what they had. And one thing that's always funny about the classic Who costumes is that the headpiece and the bit around the neck, they never quite figured out how to make it seamlessly join with the rest of the body. So you could tell that the the alien's head, the Silurian's head, which was joined into the neck and the shoulder piece, was just a hood. Yeah. So it wasn't this. So it kind of, and I know you have to sort of, suspend your belief on this stuff and just go with it, but you can tell that it's like not their skin. Obviously, it's just a piece of leather or fabric, whatever it is, that doesn't quite. So that always makes me laugh. But it was an interesting choice to go with the Silurians because it was more of a. They're threatening, of course, but it was more of a. Why do we have an 8-foot dinosaur? Down in the cave. Odd. Yeah, so that was like their sort of pet, I guess, that, the strange whistly electronic device thing that they summoned it by. It was weird because if you're going to have the Silurians, who are this very threatening, and there's a bit of infighting as well, isn't there? The leader is kind of on board with the Doctor at one point. The Doctor kind of talks him round and he's like, look, there's no need for bloodshed. We don't have to attack you guys. You don't have to, invade the human race. We can share, we can work this out and be diplomatic. So he kind of buys into it and stuff. But then you got the other Silurians that like, this is outrageous. He's not fit to lead anymore. We should be destroying the humans and all that. So because of that, they are threatening themselves. So the dinosaur thing was kind of weird. I think that was just more of a scare tactic that us as the viewer needed to know that something bad was down in the cave, not necessarily the Silurians themselves. But yeah, what do you think to those as monsters, aliens then? Because I thought that was interesting that for a new Doctor, they didn't go straight in with the Daleks or something, or the Cybermen as like the big one to kick off with. So yeah.
Yeah, it's another good point, actually. And again, never really thought about that. Yeah, they're not relying on the big guns to bring in the new Doctor. I really like the Silurians. I think they work because of the way they're written. Like you said, there's this sort of hierarchy between them, this sort of conflict of like they want to, get the leader dead and out the way, so that they can do what they think is right. And I don't know, that you can sort of relate a lot of that to real life. So you can find a connection with them. And you sort of think, well, actually, yeah, that's the sort of thing that happens in the real world, that leaders get bumped off because somebody else has got different ideas of what they want to do, a master plan. So the way they're written, I think is really good. As for the appearance, it's weird because they're one of the few sort of Doctor Who monsters, from the classic era that they sort of, the bodysuits don't look very good. They look very flimsy and rubbery, and like you said, you could see the massive join on the neck and all that sort of thing. But there's something about the design and of the head itself, and I love the way the actors move, and even the funny head wobble. And it's funny because they really shouldn't work as well as they do. There's something about them that I just absolutely love, and I just forgive all the things with the costume, which is quite rare really, because there are some Doctor Who monsters where like the Merca and stuff, and it looks terrible, and I'm so and you find yourself being so unforgiving with the costume. But with the Silurians, I don't know what it is, it just works for me. I know it's a man in a rubbery suit, it looks like a man in a rubbery suit, but I still really love the look of them. I think it's down to the way they're written. I think it's down to the actors and the way they're moving. I think it's down to the iconic actual design of the head. I mean, the Silurian head looks great in terms of the design. Mm-hmm. And I suppose I just put it down to it's of the time, and it doesn't bother me at all. Honestly, I love the look of the Silurians, and I really like them as a sort of Doctor Who monster, if you like. I think they, the idea that they were here before us and they just want their planet back, and then again, the sort of middle part of the story where the Doctor tries to say, hang on, we could make this work because, you're reptilian and you need heat and humans can't survive in high heat. So we could make that work. And I think that's a really interesting idea that they could have lived together on the same planet if they'd have just tried. But that, again, for me, plays into real life. We could all live so easily with each other, but, so many people in this world decide to make that impossible. And I think, again, that's quite relatable in the story. So I like the Silurians. I think they're a really good creation.
I read you. It's and it's I think it's you're right, it's a really relatable subject and storyline, because they kind of reused that a little bit, didn't they, with in 2010, I think it was, when we had the two-parter, The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, where they reintroduced the Silurians in the modern era. That was very much the same narrative that ran through that story. It's like, this is our planet, and they still refer to humans as the apes and all that stuff, and the Doctor's very much like, there's no need for this, we can we can coexist, kind of thing. And then you've got some Silurians that are very purists and they're having none of it, but then you've got others that are do you remember the Doctor character in that episode? It was the modern Silurian, but he had like a white lab coat on, and he was so he kind of came round a little bit, and so it's something that does hit home when you think about the deeper meaning of that story. So you can see why it does well, across lots of different fans. But one interesting thing that I have just realised actually is that when they did bring the Silurians back, the design was they really heavily overhauled the whole thing, didn't they? So the whole third eye thing's gone, and just literally completely different design. However, when they brought the Sea Devil back recently, they didn't touch it. So it's exactly, almost the same design as we had back in the other Pertwee story that introduced them, right? The Sea Devils.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me, that the Silurians now look completely different. Like if you said to a brand new Who fan, what do you think this monster's called and what do you think that monster's called? You'd never say, oh, they're the same. That's the same thing. But with the Sea Devil, you could say, oh, clearly that's the same one. So what do you prefer, dude? The newer one that's a lot more humanized, if we think about Vastra, or versus the classic one? What do you prefer?
Oh, definitely the classic.
Oh, the classic.
I don't like the new design of the Silurians at all in the Hungry Earth. I do. It's okay, but no, I much prefer this look. I think I even prefer the what's it called, Warriors of the Deep design to the new one.
Okay.
But no, this is my favourite design of the Silurian. You're right with the Sea Devil though. I mean, they looked fantastic in the new series. I think they got that absolutely right. They hardly tweaked it at all. If anything, they just sort of changed the outfit the Sea Devils are wearing, which is not a bad thing because it's better than the string vest. So that I think they got absolutely right. Shame it was such a terrible story, really. Such a disappointing return for them because they looked fantastic. But the Silurians, mate, no, I've never really got on board with the redesign. It's fine for what it is, but like you said, it doesn't really resemble the sort of characteristics of the Silurians. Sorry.
Yeah.
That I feel like are in this story. So I'm not a big fan of the new redesign. Have they got the third eye in the new one? I can't remember.
No, of course not.
No, they haven't.
They look a lot more human, basically. Yeah, it looks like
looks like a lizard.
Yeah, it looks basically like a human that's got lizard skin.
Yeah,
is the best way to put it. Yeah,
it's a bit boring, isn't it? Really, at least these look more interesting, even though they, do look a bit rubbery. Like the hands when the actors are trying to do stuff in the suits, the hands, you can see that it's almost too big for the actors' hands and stuff. But yeah, it works for me.
Yeah, and the actors that were told to play them, this won't mean anything to anyone, but Nigel Johns, Dave Carter, and Pat Gorman. They were the guys, Simon Kane and John Churchill. These were the guys that were inside the Silurian suits, and you can tell that the direction by Timothy Cohn was basically acts like an alien. Try and not walk around like a human and stuff like that. So I think that's why when you see them walking around, they're all kind of wobbly and they shake around, and there's a lot of finger waving, and it's all wobbly, and especially when they're activating their kind of what is it? It's like a sort of psychic sort of attack weapon, I suppose. When their third eye lights up and everyone goes nuts, and they all wobble a lot and shake and stuff like that. So it's definitely got that old classic Who charm about those as aliens or monsters. It's very cool. So yeah, interesting choice there for the Silurians as the bad dudes. When is Pertwee's first interaction with the Daleks or the Cybermen then?
Actually, not for a while, is it yet?
I don't think it is.
Not in this season, I don't think.
For a little while. What are you going to say, mate? I'll look it up.
Just Timothy Coon I just wanted to, as you'd mentioned, the director, I just wanted to say I thought he did such a great job on this. Considering the time that this was made, for me, he's really trying to inject some action into it, and I guess knowing it's a 7-parter, I think he does a great job. There's lots of sweeping shots. It doesn't feel static to me for the most part. It's got cameras on top of the ambulance as it drives into Marylebone Station. The sweeping shot of Jeffrey Palmer's character when he dies. There's lots of motion and movement in this story. I think that's one of the reasons I didn't find it sort of too hard going, because it does. If that's the other thing, some of the with 7-parters or 6-parters, they are so static at times. And yeah, sure, there is the odd scene like when they're just sat around tables chatting and discussing things, obviously, but I did feel like the director did a great job on this. Even from there's lots of manic zoom shots, isn't there, into the Silurians' heads as they're doing the wobble. It feels to me like he's really trying to inject some excitement into this. So obviously it still feels of its time, but didn't you think the direction was pretty sweet in this story?
It was pretty sweet, yeah. And there's a classic television technique that they used in this one as well, which is very often used throughout the 60s and 70s, and that is when you have the camera on a couple of people or a few people that are having a conversation, you had this really quick zoom into someone's face when they're about to say something poignant or important. So we had that about 1 million times.
And it often goes out of focus, doesn't it, as well?
It does for a bit.
It's just a little bit out of focus. Oh, it's fine.
That's so cool, though. I love that about classic TV. But I did think it was pretty cool, actually. It was... what I liked about it is that we often say with classic Who stories that you have the odd occasion where a director will try something and not have the episode look so static. But I think in this one it was fairly static, but I felt like it was just framed really nicely, if that's the best way to put it, because sometimes with the static stuff you have I guess in hindsight I can say this, but they probably didn't think at the time, but you have almost an awkward camera placement where it's in like the corner of a corridor, and you can only do so much with that. But I think in this one, I think that they really did have a good sense of what needed to be in the frame, that worked with 4:3 ratio TVs back in the day. So I think that it feels widescreen to me, even though it's not. If that makes sense. Everything
that does, yeah.
Everything you see in the frame. Like a good example is at the very end, when the Doctor and Liz feel like they've done their business. They're driving off in Bessie, and this is where the Doctor gets it started again. And then in the background, in the field, like a couple of miles away in the background, there's an explosion that's going off because, as we know, the Brigadier has been ordered to blow up the Silurian base, unfortunately. And the Doctor's miffed about that. And it just looks really cool. It's like you've got the Doctor and Liz in the foreground with Bessie, but in the background you can clearly see what's going on with these explosions. And it's just framed really nicely. And there's another couple of shots where they're in the caves down below, and you can see the Doctor and Masters are in the cage, in the lockup. And is it Masters? Not Masters, sorry. No, it's Dr. Lawrence, Peter Miles's character. Sorry, they're locked up in their cells and stuff. And you can see the Silurians walking around the corner, coming into shot, and they're fully in shot. You can see them from head to toe almost as they're walking through. But you've still got the Doctor in frame and the other person, and there's a bit of scenery and set and stuff like that. So to me, yes, it's a bit static, but I think it was really well directed because you had that sort of zoomy in technique that I spoke about, but also it looked, it was a nice watch. I didn't feel claustrophobic in any way, where, the camera's always really tight in on things like a lot of classic Who is. So yeah, I think it was a thumbs up on that respect, dude.
It wasn't overlit as well. I mean, the Silurians are sort of kept, it's kept sort of quite dark in scenes. I think where his direction comes alive is on the location stuff in it, but like the sweeping shot with the helicopter, and there's the scene of the Silurian coming over the hill with the sun behind him. That's a great shot. The scenes in the barn, we get a lot of POV shots. So I think his direction really comes alive when they're out on location. When we're in the studio, I think maybe it's just the confinements of the probably tiny sets. I mean, there is a scene, it made me laugh right at the start, where they're in the sort of main control room, and one of the guys makes a phone call to the woman who stood behind him, just stood up on a step. And I'm thinking, why couldn't he just turn around and say to her, but obviously in the script it says he phones through to the room above and says, could you come here for a moment? But in reality, the set's so small, she's literally just stood right behind him. There's no need for him to phone her and say, could you come in? So I think it's the sets are probably tiny. I think it says on the production notes they had some disaster with the cave sets or something. I'm not quite sure what it was, but they really had to cobble together what they were given to make the cave. So I reckon a lot of the time when we're getting the sort of, like you said, sort of more static studio shots, it's probably because they were such small sets. And I think he does a good job with what he's got in front of him, but definitely comes alive when they're on location. I love the location stuff. And
talking of how this episode looks, and we'll rattle through some other cast members quickly in a second and give our scores, but in terms of how this looks, I don't know if it's just the source material that they had to work with, but it does feel like this is a little bit rough around the edges, because there was a few episodes as I was watching through, and there's like this sort of contrasty color wave effect that's sort of running over the image on a couple of episodes. It does look a bit rough, because
especially anything red.
Yes, the oversaturation on the red and the cyan side of the you could tell that a mile off, because the actors' lips look overly. They all look like they're wearing lipstick at one point, and so that was weird. But this was the first story that we recorded. They used color studio cameras, so I guess it was a little bit of a dipping their toe in the water with that stuff. But it's just a real big contrast, because the previous story was shot pretty much all on location on film stock, 35mm film. It looks gorgeous, spearhead from space. So to go from that to then this, where you're back in studio and you're using studio cameras and stuff, I guess was a little bit weird. But I'm really hoping that, and don't get me wrong, this is not the end of the world, and it's very much a nice to have, but I would really love this to be sort of remastered, tidied up and color corrected properly, because I think it would look really cool.
I mean, I noticed the quality changed quite a bit between episodes. I don't know, so what happened with the episodes? Were they junked? Because these are recolored, aren't they? There's like a little extra feature on the DVD where they show I think they had. So I don't know if these were junked. Oh, they were wiped, I think. Yeah, the originals were wiped by the BBC. I'm just seeing it on Twitter now. Not on Twitter, on Wiki. So they wiped the original episodes, which I always think of the black and white ones being wiped. I never think of the Pertwee ones. But even those weren't safe from the BBC. So they wiped the originals, managed to get some black and white versions of the episodes from somewhere, mix them with some colorization prints. I don't know, there's been a lot of restoration work on them, but they still, like you said, and obviously they've done the best they can, and techniques will have improved since they remastered these episodes for DVD. But it's a shame the original prints aren't there, so they've had to use sort of other prints from other countries and recolorize them and goodness knows what. So, but it does show in certain episodes, like you said, if you get anything with like a red background, like the red cloth behind Jeffrey Palmer's character, it's got a lot of interference in the picture. So it's incredible, isn't it? You don't think of like Pertwee episodes being junked by the BBC, but a lot of his were actually, like Terror of the Autons, I remember looking a bit ropey on DVD, and they managed to do a fairly good job when they released that on Blu-ray, because as I say, techniques have changed since the remastering process of this story, so hopefully they can work wonders with it when it comes out on Blu-ray. But I wouldn't expect miracles, mate, because they don't have the original don't have the original film prints, unfortunately, for these. I reckon the dudes at the restoration team would have a good crack at this one, though, when we finally get around to this Blu-ray set. Oh, I'm sure they will. They'll do their best. But you're right, like you said, you go from Spearhead being shot on film, which looks glorious, to slightly ropey picture quality. It's of its time. And like you said, it's not a biggie, but it would be nice to see it improved if they can. Actually, which reminds me, when we saw the Time Meddler at the BFI the other week, they talked about that because the original DVD release of that, the quality was the best they could do, but it wasn't great. And there's actually a trailer for that on this DVD, and it does look really bad compared to what we're going to get when the new set comes out. Honestly, I don't know if they've found new prints or if they've found a new technique to improve the picture, but my goodness, like it looks so much better. Having watched the little Next Time trailer on the DVD just last night from what we got when it came out on DVD, they've worked wonders on the Time Meddler. So hopefully they can do the same on this, or similar.
Yeah, defo. And I just want to go off topic just for a second. Talking of techniques to restore stuff, nothing to do with Doctor Who, but if there are any classic 80s cartoon fans listening and you are a fan of He-Man and Masters of the Universe, there is a new Blu-ray set of that about to be released in the next, month or two, couple of months. And the restoration, the remaster on that is unbelievable. So
really?
Just very quickly, if anyone wants to check this out, there's a guy who is on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. He goes by the name of Serial Geek. I've forgotten his actual name, but I think he worked officially on He-Man. He's wrote a book about it and stuff and has done a lot of work on, I think he runs the official YouTube channel. Anyway, he's been posting screenshots on Instagram of comparisons between the original release when they released them on DVD and then this brand new Blu-ray. And it is night and day difference. You would have thought that it was made and drawn yesterday. So He-Man and the Master of the Universe, the upcoming Blu-ray set, is going to look freaking sweet.
It is. Technology is amazing now, isn't it? What they can actually do to improve the picture quality.
Yes.
Just again, slightly off topic, I saw you were talking about the Wurzel box set last week, and I thought, yes, must see how much that is. Must get that pre-ordered. My heart sank when I saw the price, dude. I think on HMV it was like $89.99, and
no, that's not the final price, is it?
$89.99.
No.
But on Amazon it was $69.99. So it's quite expensive. I'm like, I'm going to give that a couple of weeks. I'm going to let that come down because I can't pay that.
That cannot be the final.
No, I mean, I don't know when it's out. The price is bound to drop. That's probably like the top end RRP, but it's bound to drop. But it's expensive, mate.
It's meant to be out this month, dude. It's meant to be out at the end of this. This can't be 80. No way.
Well, I think it was cheaper on Amazon. I don't like using Amazon, but they were a bit cheaper. I think it was 60 something on Amazon, but it was still expensive, mate. As much as I want that lovely remastered, that's the problem, isn't it? I suppose everything's going up in price. If we want these things remastered, I guess they are going to cost because of the time and everything involved. But yeah.
Anyway, but let's rattle through a few supporting cast members, and we'll just spend 30 seconds a minute on each of these then. So Nick Courtney then as the Brig, classic Brig, dude.
Yeah, classic Brig in this. He's on great form. He always is, really. But yes, it's a good one for the Brig. And I kind of knew at the end what was going to happen. You almost feel sorry for the Silurians. But the fact that Brig's trying to usher the Doctor off, he's like, yeah, go on then. Off you go. Go and have a nice time. You just know what he's going to do. But he's great in it. Some good conflict between the Brig and the Doctor as well. Courtney and John Pertwee just sparring off each other brilliantly. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, do you know what? I love this pairing of John Pertwee and Nick Courtney. They've got such a great respect for each other because the Doctor's obviously the Doctor, and the Brig respects that and understands that, because even in this episode, there was the guy, the really uppity guy that's not happy with Unit B in there. He's looking for all the paperwork and he's like, I've looked through your list of team members and everything, all good, but nothing about this Doctor. What's he all about? And the Brig, because he knows, the Doctor, he just sort of brushes it under the carpet quickly. He's like, you don't need to know about the Doctor. He's my personal responsibility. It's all good. And so you've got that respect there, but at the same time, there's that rubbing each other up the wrong way when the Doctor knows that from an otherworldly alien perspective, he knows what to do, but the Brig can't always get his head around that. So the Brig's got this very much military sort of thing he has to go through almost with Unit. So
they work so well together, and he's classic. The only thing that makes me laugh about the Brig is, unfortunately, they don't really deck him out in the most flattering of outfits at times.
Oh no, the unit outfits are not very nice in this story, are they?
It's not for a start. It's not the right size for him. It doesn't look like. And secondly, there's just not. It doesn't really. Yeah, it looks like a Boy Scout outfit that's just had a unit badge slapped on it sometimes. But anyway, Nick Courtney doing the business as usual as the Brig. I can imagine so many. I would love to have been in the pub at the same time as Nick Courtney and John Pertwee, in between filming and stuff. What a conversation they would have had.
Yeah, I could totally imagine that. Yeah,
because they loved to drink back then, those two. Anyway, let's have a look. So Peter Miles then, as Dr. Lawrence, he hammed this one up, dude.
He does. I mean, that's what he does, and it's weird, isn't it? Because I'd forgotten he was in it, and I always think of him as Nyder in Genesis of the Daleks because he's so calculating and cold and brilliant in that story. Yeah. So I forget he's in this one, but he does always ham it up. And I thought he was fun. I love the fact that he's so angry that the Doctor's there all the time. He's like, "Who is this man?" And I love the bit when he gets the plague and he jumps up on the table and tries to strangle the.
So I think scream in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he does ham it up, but one thing with Peter Miles is he does always leave an impression. You know, he's not an actor that fades into the background, and I love him for that. So I think he gives a fun performance in this.
Yeah, he's cool. What about Fulton McKay as Dr. Quinn, our friend from Porridge, if you've ever seen that, the guard?
Oh, is that where I know him from?
Yeah, he was under the control of the Silurians, essentially, wasn't he? And that obviously came to light quite early on in the story, and we knew he was going to get bumped off. You know, we knew that, but he was quite cool in this.
He was, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's interesting, the scene towards the beginning that went on forever. You know, when he's up in the glass booth and he's got the little microphone and increase power to 600 million things, and then out on the floor someone turns a little knob, power increased to 600, and this is like, come on, Jesus. But he played that really well, because obviously he wants to really get this going because he's working for the Silurians essentially, but all the other people are like, you can't do this, it's dangerous. He's like, bugger off, I know exactly what I'm doing. So I liked his character. He was quite cool.
I liked the scene where the Doctor goes to his house and forces his way in, and it was almost comedic. I don't know, they managed to get a great fine line between sort of acting that scene seriously but also putting in a fun element to it, like the bit where the Doctor's at the window at the end. I don't know if that was an improvisation, but that was so funny. He's just there. That was he was good at it. That guy. I knew him from somewhere.
Yes. Jeffrey Palmer, obviously a very well-known actor as Masters.
Very, yeah.
Would have been interesting, his reaction getting the script to see if he wanted to do this. It's like basically a guy in a suit who's very serious for a while and then dies of the plague, essentially. So very. Is this a very Jeffrey Palmer role, or are we used to more kind of comedic stuff from him too?
Yeah, he's normally comedic, isn't he?
He was all right though. He was all right in this. Yeah,
I mean, he does give a perfectly fine performance. Nothing wrong with his performance. It's just it doesn't stand out, I suppose, like some of the others. It says very. Jeffrey Palmer often does that, doesn't he? He just sort of has this slightly pompous demeanour in terms of the characters he's playing. I'm not talking about him personally. I don't know what he was like, but yeah, he often plays those sort of slightly pompous characters, doesn't he? And he comes into this and kind of does his thing, and he's good in it. But I wouldn't say he doesn't. I don't feel like he's given 110%. I don't feel like he's like taken the role and thought, right, I'm going to really go for this, like Peter Miles. So yeah, I thought it was a decent performance. It's nice to see him in it anyway. So he's a nice actor.
Yeah.
Sense, yeah.
He only left us recently as well. He died in 2020. He was 93. So he had a good.
Oh really?
Good innings. Yeah, Jeffrey Palmer. He was pretty good.
He did loads over the years, didn't he?
Yes. And is there anyone else in the supporting cast you want to mention?
Well, Paul Darrow, I suppose, because obviously I love Blake Seven, so it's interesting to see a young Paul Darrow playing one of the. Yes, Hawkins. I mean, Paul Darrow's another one that could very often ham up a performance, and I feel like he's teetered on the edge in this. But it's just nice to see a young Paul Darrow in it. He gets a few nice moments.
Yes, yeah. And we haven't forgotten about Liz Shaw, Caroline John, obviously. To finish up with her, then what did you think to Liz? Because I'll be honest with you, she's not my favourite companion in classic or all of Who. But I'm not saying that she's bad, because I think it was one of the first. I think it was one of the first roles in Doctor Who where her character was written to push back on the predominantly male in charge society. You know, she was very much I'm not going to be the one that makes the tea all the time, and I'm not going to do this. You know, she pushes back, you know, which was kind of rare, I guess, still at this time in television history, back in the 60s and 70s. Very much, you know, the women weren't the forefront of these things, and, you know, they were very much a lot of the time just follow the Doctor around and scream. Obviously the path was laid very nicely by Barbara from the early stuff. But yeah, she was one of these companions that didn't just accept when one of the male actors, or maybe personally for her as well, but definitely the way she was written script wise, was that in this episode she very much pushes back, like, I have, you know, I'm a doctor, you know, I'm going to do this, and I'm not just here to do, you know, follow you around sort of thing. So she's not my fave, but she's not bad either. She's just she just seems to have just enough to do, but she never really goes crazy, other than Inferno possibly. But yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I really like Liz Shaw as a character. I think there was great potential with her, and I think Caroline John's great playing it. But I don't think they ever quite realised the potential, or maybe because she's only there for one season. But yes, I love what they're going for. You know, a more stronger female companion for the Doctor. Definitely sort of after, I think sort of during, I hate to say it, during the Troughton era, we did get a lot of screaming companions like Deborah Watlin's character, who I love, but, you know. So yes, it's a step in the right direction in terms of that, and I think it's nice to see the Doctor getting a strong companion. I think they felt like she was almost too strong, which is, I think, one of the reasons they got rid of her, isn't it? That they felt like she was too much of an equal for the Doctor, and we need somebody to ask all the questions, to explain to the viewer and all that. So, yeah, I think she's a good companion, and I think she's well played, and maybe the potential is there, but not quite tapped into, I think, over the series. But yes, it's nice. It's a nice change, isn't it? I mean, I love Jo Grant, obviously the next companion. She's one of my favourites. She's got that just delightful charm to her. But I think Caroline John is a good companion, and it's nice to have a change, and nice to have a strong female companion for the Doctor. It's definitely mixes it up a bit from what we may have had before. So
yes, yeah, good. Just lastly, very, very quickly, I thought the music was both good and bad in this.
Yeah, it's the last thing I've got on my notes is the music.
Yeah, I think for the most part it was okay. It was kind of atmospheric and okay, but it had this weird, a few times where it was weird kind of, it felt like it was the sort of thing that you'd go to a primary school and have a little performance by the kids. It sounded like somebody just having a little go on the glockenspiel, and somebody with a recorder, somebody just banging a triangle. It just felt like this real kind of playful, childlike bit of music that was over the top of a few scenes, which is really weird. So Kerry Blyton, who composed this, for the most part, you know, pretty sweet. But yeah, there was just odd little moments where just it felt really out of place to have these weird bits of music. But yeah, bit weird.
I love that description. That's brilliant. I'm going to think of that every time I watch this. That's fantastic. Yes, I agree. It's weird because there are some bits which I think are really creepy and really work well. Like I don't know if it's a violin or a cello. There's this certain instrument that gets used a few times in the story, which is really nice. And then, yeah, like you said, then you get this other weird. Sometimes I can't work out if it's sound effects or music. You get this other stuff thrown in, which is just bizarre. So some of it works really well, some of it not so much. It's not as interfering as the Sea Devil soundtrack, that's for sure. But it's certainly up there as being a bit odd in places. Yeah,
a bit weird. Yes.
A little bit weird.
Just a very, very quick thing that we mentioned earlier about when does John Pertwee's Doctor, the third Doctor, come in contact with one of the big ones like the Daleks or
the Cybermen,
whatever. I don't think it's until season 9 or series 9. The first episode of that one, Day of the Daleks.
Wow,
So-
this is not to season 9.
Yeah, so I think we go through 2 series with him before we get to the Daleks or the Cybermen.
Blimey, because he didn't like the Daleks, did he? He wasn't a fan, but I don't know that he had much say in it. So that's the first appearance of the Daleks. This is the first appearance of Bessie as well. Must be.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, Bessie. Well, Bessie always looks to me like it looks. I like Bessie, but it looks flimsy. It looks to me like if it hit one big rock in the road, it would just go flying across, the moors. It doesn't look that stable as a car, but it probably was.
It probably was okay, but it's funny because there's a couple of scenes where you can tell that Pertwee's really revving the engine. There's a bit where he drives off up the road and it takes him ages to change gear. He's just like really putting his foot down to try and get some speed out of it. But yeah, it's a cute thing. Right?
It's such an odd car, though, isn't it? I mean, I think Pertwee's Doctor somehow manages. I don't know if I make it look good, but it does work with his Doctor. But it's an odd thing to bring in as a regular for the series, isn't it? It's an odd car, for sure. Like the Whomobile, you think, oh yeah, that's Doctor Who, isn't it? A futuristic car.
Yeah.
This thing, what is it? Like it looks strange.
The
It's a
Whomobile, I love
strange thing. Yeah.
Oh dear. Rightio then, let's wrap this up then for Doctor Who and the Silurians. Whose turn is it to go first? I can't remember.
I think it's me this week to go first.
Go on
I
in,
get a
bud.
feeling I'm going to be slightly higher than you as well. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I just think it's a really good story, and I did enjoy it. Bit of padding. I expected it, really, but I enjoyed it. So it's good.
Good. An 8. Okay, I'm going to give this a 7.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm a point lower than you, bud, but I still feel this is a good watch. It's still a really good classic Who watch. It does give you really nice, warm classic vibes that you'd expect from this era of Who, and it's a good watch. But I can't get any more than that personally, just because I was a wee bit bored throughout some of the middle episodes, and it's there's some padding there, but otherwise fairly good. Right, so then an 8 from him, a 7 from me. What did our fans think? Our followers over on the socials and stuff. So first of all, over on Twitter, Will Sanger says, this one is fantastic. It's fantastic. The Silurians and humans' attitudes towards one another perfectly mirror each other, and the different outlooks within the Silurian race adds even more nuance. Also, great guest characters, and I really like the conflict between the Doctor and the Brigadier.
Yeah.
Tom Turlow says, I've not seen that many Pertwee stories, but I think I have seen this one. My memory tells me this is a typical Pertwee. All right, but a bit dull. Some of the support characters are quite good, and it has its moments. My feeling watching this one is the same as when I watch any other Pertwee story. Wouldn't this be so much better if Tom Baker was the Doctor?
Oh,
Tom.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say an episode shorter. Tom, I don't know. Would it have been... I don't know. I think Pertwee's great in this.
I think so, yeah. I mean, you could apply that theory to most Doctors that you're a fan of, I guess. But yeah, but Tom gives it a 6 out of 10, though. So not terrible. But yeah, wow, an interesting one there, Tom. Thank you very much. Owen says, Doctor Who Home says, one of the very best. The Silurians are an ingenious concept, and the moral dilemma is so good, it's been done again and again. A timeless classic that holds up to this day. Easily one of the best stories, full stop. A 10 out of 10.
A 10, my word.
10. We need a jingle for that as well, a little ding or something. Dan Pin says, what a great creation the Silurians are, the forgotten masters of a long-gone world. And now they've woken up and they want the Earth back. Great sci-fi concepts, heavily dipped in the real world, gritty and realistic. Liz Shaw is great, just a couple of episodes too long, an 8 out of 10. Jippy T says, a few episodes too long due to a little padding. Pertwee is excellent and the Silurians are a great enemy. Moral dilemmas abound. I say give them the Earth back. An 8 from me. They'd probably do a better job at this point, I think.
They
Chippy
would. They probably don't want it back after what we've done to it.
Well, that's an even better point, yeah. Edward Gillooly says, an absolute classic. The Silurians have genuine reasons for their actions, and the humans at times seem like the monsters. It fills its 7 episodes pretty well. I watched it during COVID, having forgotten that the Silurians release a plague. 8.5. The plague. Our writer Maria says, great story, although could lose one episode without spoiling too much. Enjoy. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Maria.
And lastly on Twitter, Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, a great, engaging story. The Silurians have a great screen presence, and Liz Shaw Lethbridge Stewart and Pertwee's Doctor are all a pleasure to watch. Mere glimpses of the Silurians in some scenes added suitable trepidation, and Pertwee's gurning faces will always make me laugh. 8 out of 10. And she also says, also in part 4, I note the Doctor reference being around for several thousand years. I have missed that on previous watches.
Yeah, that's weird. I'd never noticed that before. Not sure how that works because, he goes back to being like 700, I think, with Tom Baker. I think the Doctor just lies about his age. We all do that.
I was going to say, that's a common thing, right?
Yeah, I'm only 28.
Yes. Also, did you notice that they did not cover up John Pertwee's arm tattoo?
Oh, yes. I did make a note of that, actually. I forgot about that. Yeah, wasn't that strange? He's got like a snake tattooed on his arm. I mean, I was weirdly shocked to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, because these days you have actors that are covered in tattoos, like, I don't know, Tom Hardy and stuff. And in certain roles, they just Johnny Depp as well. They just cover them all up and away you go. So it's interesting I didn't even attempt to cover it. It was just the Doctor has a tattoo. Then fair play.
Has a tattoo of a snake, and they were so worried about being, influencing like the younger audience back then. As they wouldn't let the Pertwee pick the lock of the door, for example, in this story, because we don't want to set a bad example to the kids. Yeah. But they don't try and cover up he's got a tattoo. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did notice it and I forgot to mention it. Yeah,
interesting. Thank you very much, Twitter followers. Over to Facebook, Jeff Waddle says, far too padded out. And the virus and nuclear reactor storyline feels tacked on to fill the 7 episodes. Good central concept, though, a hibernating race under the Earth, and I certainly prefer the third eye to the design we have now. Yeah. The book is superior, mainly because the T-Rex looks good in illustrations. 6 out of 10 from Jeff. Toby Coleman says the story is a very odd watch in 2022, having actually experienced a virus spread. But overall, this is probably one of the most morally ambiguous stories in Doctor Who. Even the brig comes out of it badly. I assume he's referencing the end where he blows them all up. Yeah. So this is the Silurians at their best, and despite it being a bit slow and long, it really is a great watch. 8 out of 10. James Walsh has a classic, well acted by everyone, and a fantastic grown-up plot opposed to the previous season. The Silurians were great, and I thoroughly enjoyed the way they used their third eye as a weapon. 10 wobbly heads out of 10. Another 10. Gordon Hudson, my era, that makes me feel very old. A 9 out of 10 on story alone, 1 point off for the sets and costumes. Yes, I know, but even for this period, they are poor. Gordon. And lastly, Charlie Turner says, apart from the music, this story, like the rest of season 7 for the most part, deserves a 10 out of 10. And I think that Malcolm Hulke is perhaps to be the most underrated Doctor Who writer of all time, as he created the Sea Devils as well, and stories like Frontier in Space and Colony in Space.
That's a good shout, actually.
Yeah. A bit of a long review from Charlie, but a 10 out of 10 from Charlie. 10. And as an inclusion to the Big Blue Box podcast reviews moving forward, Adam doesn't know about this, so I'm springing it on him now. We've also got reviews coming from our Discord family.
Oh.
So Doc Haunt says, this story has some absolutely great performances from Pertwee and Courtney and some great moments. However, it drags heavily and the disease subplot and the 7 episodes don't help add much. Sea Devils did the concept better and quicker, in my opinion. A 6.5 out of 10.
Makes me want to watch the Sea Devils, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
You nicked their voice for your intro, didn't you? Because you always say,
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I hadn't realised I was actually a Sea Devil.
Yes.
I've suspected it for a while.
All right then, so some pretty decent scores then, bud. On that one, we had a few 10s, which is good. So I would say the average is probably an 8 for this one.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
What are we doing next week?
Oh, so next week we'll be back to plodding on through Torchwood Miracle Day. We are getting there. We're starting to get into it. So after last week's soft porn gore fest, we're going on to an episode called End of the Road. Except it's not the end because we've still got, another 3 episodes?
Another 2 after that one. Yeah.
2 after that. But yeah, Miracle Day, End of the Road next week. So what will happen? Will we actually get any further into the story? We shall see.
Yes. What's Angelo up to?
Oh yeah, Angelo, yeah.
He's back, yes. So, End of the Road from Torchwood Miracle Day next week. And I think we'll wrap there then, bud, for episode 365.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm out of breath because I've been banging along and dancing and drumming on the desk for that. Hold on. Thank you very much for joining us for episode 365. It's been great to have you listening to our little podcast for another time. Like I said earlier, if this is your first episode, then I hope you've enjoyed. Welcome aboard, and to the old timers, the grizzled ancients, the long timers, welcome back. It's been good to have you with us. So as Adam said, next week we'll be reviewing Torchwood Miracle Day, End of the Road. So get your DVDs, Blu-rays, get them inserted and fired up, or get your BritBox. Actually, no, Torchwood is on iPlayer, so get that fired up and give that a watch, because we'll be asking you for your thoughts and your scores as always next week for that. In the meantime, make sure that you follow and or subscribe to this podcast on your fave podcast app. We're on all of them basically, so whatever you listen to, just do a search for the Big Blue Box Podcast, you'll find us on there, or head over to the website where you can also listen to our episodes for free on there. It's bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can also check out all the reviews and articles from our writing team on the website as well. Really bunch of cool people who contribute to our content and very much appreciated, and they do some wonderful writing, so go and check that out. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links are on the website. Come and chat Doctor Who throughout the week and jump into our free Discord server as well. Remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
Indeed, go and check out the channel. Also on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter and Insta.
He's on the gram. You know he is.
I like the gram.
Yeah, The Geek's Handbag. Go and check it out. Get a cup of tea, get comfy, and do all the things. So until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,